I handle
Powers
a lot of, I handle the city for garbage,
I mean, it started.
a lot of recycling. Hospitals.
Oh, okay.
Long time after me.
So
Katie
she's
Leone.
the baby,
Hi, how are you?
and you're the baby.
Mama Leone.
Baby.
You probably knew my dad.
Oh
Bill
yeah.
Leone. We grew up with Goggins. We had I had dinner or lunch with Miss Melanie, your dad, my dad, your mom. He's cute. His brother's cuter than he is. Wanna come on over?
Okay. Sure.
Where'd you see the game? Did you think I said I'm gonna leave? He's like,
All right, you ready? Good. Hey, thanks. We're on an announcement tour, and we're meeting with business people from across the state, talking about what the barriers are to economic growth and what we need to do in Michigan and what we need to do on the federal level to get the economy moving again. I'm glad I came to Flint. It's kind of interesting. The president has visited Holland, Michigan twice in the last 13 months, my hometown. He hasn't come back to Flint. I think he was here during the campaign. I'd really encourage him to come back to Flint and take a look at some of the stuff that's going on here. Had a tour of the downtown, thank you. A great tour of downtown, and to see some of the progress and the activity that's going on here has been very, very encouraging. This is the second one of these roundtables that we've done with business people, and it's very interesting. There's a sense of frustration and a lack of confidence as to where the economy's headed, where we're going as a national government, and a recognition, I think, that there's a lack of balance between what's happening at the federal level, what's happening at the state level, and what's happening at the local level. We've got to restore that kind of balance, and we can actually get the economy moving and growing again and creating the kinds of jobs that we want to have. It's also interesting that in both meetings that we've had today, one of the main issues that we've talked about is education. How do we restore local control of education? Why is the federal government making the decision as to where we're going to hire 30 or 40,000 more teachers? Why don't we just get the federal government off the backs of our local schools, our local school districts? If we want to put more money into the classroom, don't spend more money from Washington. Just get rid of the rules and the regulations. Get rid of No Child Left Behind. Our parents, our local community leaders, they know best what's best for our kids, especially when they actually know the names of each of our kids and they know their strengths and weaknesses. And I think that same type of approach, whether it's to education, whether it's to economic growth and these types of things, it's get rid of the term that I've heard here quite often this morning, is we need a less activist federal government. We need more supportive government. An activist government that's given us too many rules and regulations, that's made it difficult for job creation. What we need is a more supportive government that recognizes what entrepreneurs, what business people need to grow jobs, what they need in terms of certainty. So things like Obamacare, which have increased tremendously the amount of uncertainty in the economy, those things need to be set aside. We need incremental reforms that get health insurance people, no doubt about that, but don't do the massive changes that create this uncertainty that freezes businesses in place and stops them from investing and hiring. So for the folks here today, thank you. We're going to continue this dialogue over an extended period of time, talking about what it's going to do to get Michigan's economy. Michigan's a great state, tremendous resources, tremendous people. We can get this state moving again as long as we create the right environment for investment. And with that, I'll take any questions that anybody may have.
You talk about unemployment. What do you see as a fix for that? What can you do about unemployment and jobs and creating jobs?
What we can do about creating jobs is we need to recognize that it is not the federal government, it is not government that creates jobs. Too often, I think what we've seen and what we heard from the president last week, Thursday, was about the government creating jobs. What we've heard from the people here today and what I've heard from business owners around the state is if we get government out of the way, if we let business people do what they do best, the people that are standing next to me, if we give them the right environment, they will go out and create jobs. They will create the investment. They will make the decisions that allows them to grow economic opportunity. They are the ones that are the job creators in this state. They are the ones that will do this. It's not the federal government. Other questions?
Well,
Sure.
you're opposing financial reform,
Go ahead. Okay.
and so, you know, they caused the recession. Why would you oppose it?
I would be for repealing Dodd-Frank. There was a problem. Clearly there was a problem. There's a lot of reasons why this happened. Many would say that it was the actions of members of Congress in the late 90s who encouraged home ownership by people who really couldn't afford it, by the rules and regulations and the openness that they put in for home ownership in the late 90s. That's what created what we saw in 2008, 2009. What we saw coming out of Dodd-Frank, talk to the bankers, talk to the mortgage lenders, all right? I'm on the board of a small bank. What we are seeing is a significant increase in the rules and the regulations, meaning it's more expensive now for the banking community to do the banking business, which increases the cost of loans. The rules and the regulations are freezing lots of people out of the housing market and making it very difficult. So did there need to be reforms? Yes. This is, again, one more example of federal overreach and going way beyond where they needed to go and putting a wet blanket over economic growth, putting a wet blanket over a recovering housing market. If we want to get this economy moving again, you know, so often it begins with manufacturing and it begins with housing. Dodd-Frank has ensured that it will not begin with housing.
What reforms would you support?
Well, I think this is, again, is where you go through and you take a look at making sure that people who are moving into housing markets and want to move into it, that they've got the right type of income to support the purchasing requirements that they want to have, or that the purchasing power for the house that they want to buy. Make sure that there are minimal standards in place for those kinds of things. What we encourage people to do for about a decade is we encourage people who did not have the financial resources, who didn't work, who didn't save for that nest egg to go out and put down that 10, 15% for that first home. What we did is we allowed people who didn't have those resources to get into the housing market. It made no sense.
What would you have the banks, the financial institutions do? You know, they played a part in it. What reform would you ask of them?
Well, I think where you put in place the minimal standards, and this is where we're going through now and making sure that they are doing the proper appraisal work, that they are putting, as they're reselling these mortgages, that they put them together and that we get rid of these subprime opportunities. So those are the kinds of things that we could have done. But what we have now done and what happened with Dodd-Frank is we went well beyond that process. Any other questions? Okay, great, thanks. Thanks for being here.
Talk to you soon.
All right, we'll stay in touch. Thank you.
See ya, honey. We'll talk to you
Hey,
soon.
good, thanks.
See your family.
Yes.
I'm honey too.
Yeah. Hey, thanks. It's great seeing you. Thanks for being here. The business is okay?
I was scared I was. I just got it out of that.